destiny sort of brought me to my calling at the age of 40. And she discovered that there was potential in me and really geared me towards whether it was public speaking or writing. And like I said, as a shy person, you needed someone to give you that confidence and push you on. My great-grandfather, my father's grandfather, started one of the first all-girls schools in rural Bihar. An incident where I think not ashamed. I'm ashamed of the act, but I might as well admit it that I raised my hand on a kid, and that for sure there will be a lot more change. Soft skills in an extremely sort of condescending manner.
Yeah.
And how do you create that equitable system? I don't know why we look at private education as a criminal. To impose it just on a political this thing is, I feel, unfair. It is completely inconsiderate for the students.
You know, obviously recently in the news, we've seen the whole coaching culture, so many suicides of students. A supportive parent versus a helicopter parent.
We're very judgmental of this. Yeah.
How would you describe the Indian education system in one word? Good afternoon, Mr. Sinha. How are you? Welcome to No Idea Whatsoever.
Thank you, Devvaki, for finally calling me to one of my favorite podcasts.
Thank you for finally making the time. You know, my first question always is, did you know what you were going to do when you grew up, or did you have no idea whatsoever?
Not only when I grew up, but honestly, I didn't know what was the right thing for me to do till destiny sort of brought me to my calling at the age of 40. Till then, I was kind of, doing various things. So, no, absolutely no idea.
And now, of course, you're a principal at one of the leading schools in the world, if I might add that. At least you're making it one. Who was Saurav Sinha before becoming, as a student, before becoming a principal?
I think a lot of what I am as a principal or educator goes back to what I was as a child. I don't like talking about myself too much, but just to give you a context, I feel when I look back that I was one of those people with a fairly high intelligence, but also extremely easily distractible. And you had to earn my respect. And quite often I would misbehave in class because I was not feeling I was getting anything. So as a result, I did well in school. I was always in the top 2 or 3, but I wasn't an excellent student. I started taking academics much more seriously in university, really, because I think because in class 12 I didn't do as well as I'd expected, and so. But yes, I think as a child I was restless, but also extremely. I find it difficult to say, but very shy. But at the same time, always on stage for some reason, because I think my skills and my inner self were at contradiction. So I had good communication skills. So on stage I was comfortable, but otherwise I was, I think a little reticent.
But so you mentioned that you were easily distracted. Were you a disciplined student or someone who would, do naughty things in school and?
So I was quite a naughty kid, but I think I was not indisciplined in the sense of I never broke the cardinal rules of school. I was mischievous, I think, as a teenager. And part of it was I think because a lot of it would have been acceptable now. At that time, it was a very sort of, how can you speak to your seniors? How can you speak to your teacher? And I was a bit, I think irreverence is a characteristic I've always had. And that used to come across as disrespect, I think, now when I look back at it.
Was there a teacher who really fundamentally changed your life?
In school, there was a lady. She retired recently. She was heading a couple of schools. She worked in many schools after that. But yes, she was my English teacher. And I think at a very young age, I think I was 11 or something, and she discovered that there was potential in me and really geared me towards a lot of the things that I sort of excelled in school and continue to be my interest. So whether it was public speaking or writing.
Back then?
Back then, yeah.
Wow.
So I started writing, I was debating, I was on stage, so all those things, there's a lot of things which I did. And like I said, as a shy person, you needed someone to give you that confidence and push you on, And then by the time I left school, I think I had at least enough confidence in those abilities of mine, if not overall.
What were the subjects you just disliked in school?
So here's, I mean, these questions would be better in context if I answered after we speak about a lot of other things. But here, mathematics, for example, is something I used to do very well in, because my grandmother had taught me the multiplication tables till 20 before my sixth birthday. And even,
Wow.
so my mental maths has always been strong, and I used to do well. But I think we all reach, if we look back, there are some people who just don't like it, but a lot of people, if you ask them on mathematics, they enjoy math till that one teacher comes who finishes it for them forever.
Totally.
And that's pretty much what happened with me. And therefore, physics is a subject I just never got.
Ah, okay.
I just didn't get it. And it's strange because my nephews and all are just physics freaks, and they keep looking at me and wondering, why. But yeah, physics is something which I found a little physics and chemistry.
I think same for me. I would also add math to that. But chemistry, I remember there was a time when I literally got a half on 10 because I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
But it was so strange because now when I read some things or listen to a podcast, I actually get it.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it felt like completely gibberish to me. I couldn't understand anything that was going on in class.
So
when it
if
came
I
to
may just add to that, which is why I'm I'm extremely focused on building a strong STEM education in any institution that I'm a part of, because that loss is mine. I realize that.
Yeah.
And I think the main issue is because sciences can be abstract sometimes. Biology, not so much so, because but physics and chemistry. That's why I keep saying that in the younger years, if we can get kids interested with the output of science, whether it's planetariums, astronomy, gadgets, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and then give the context of physics being the route to reach there. I mean, pretty much we didn't have these communications. We didn't have any. So, of course, a lot of people still got it. So, there's a lot of it which is on me. But from my perspective, I just feel I just didn't know what are we studying? What is
Yeah.
the purpose of this?
Fair.
So, I think that was my feeling. But that was also the reason why I kind of moved away from it.
And you've called yourself the eternal border. Why is that?
Well, if I look at my life, I joined Vellum when I was 9 years old. I graduated when I was 17. Then I was in college, I was in a boarding school. After that, there were 2 or 3 of us who took a PG and stayed together. So I've never stayed with family really. Till the point when I was about 27, 28. And then when I went off to England, then I stayed with my family for a year or so while I was figuring out what to do next. And then my sister and I joined. I tell you a funny story. My sister was 7 and she went to AFMC to do medicine after her Wellham Girls graduation. And then she was there for 5 or 6 years. When she came to Delhi, I remember she used to tell me, she says, I keep roaming around from room to room looking at where are all the people and all, because from the age of 7, she'd just been in that kind of a community.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think also that's the only, it was the one stability through the years, right? Because my parents were moving quite a lot and everything. So that was that one thing I knew which was a constant in my life, so that's perhaps why.
Did you have any background in education in the sense your parents were any of them educators?
Yeah, in fact, I say this with a great deal of pride that my great-grandfather, my father's grandfather, started one of the first all-girls schools in rural Bihar about 90 years ago.
Wow.
And not only that, he was a big champion of women's education. My aunt, who recently, she's now in her 80s, but I think about 5 or 6 years ago, she received a Padma Shri. She was one of the first lady doctors to graduate from Patna Medical College. So we basically have a family of doctors and educators. Really. Yeah. So yes, education is very much a part of our background.
Yeah. Was there any sort of incident and failure you encountered in your career that really shaped how you look at life today?
I'll limit it. There are many in my life,
of course.
But I'll limit it to my education. And there was an incident which happened in the boys' school, in Wellham Boys, which I'm not particularly proud of. But now when I look back, I think it did shape me for the better, which was an incident where I think I'm not ashamed. I'm ashamed of the act, but I might as well admit it that I raised my hand on a kid, and because of that, things became very ugly. The parents and so I was. Your first instinct is, listen, I'm ready to apologize. Blah blah blah. Why are the parents being so difficult and stuff? But then if you're honest with yourself, you sit back and you said, look, everything else is a reaction. And I sat back and said, what I did, was that true, or was that good or bad? And I realized it was bad, it was wrong. And everything after that is not my business. I've got to clean my side of the street.
Yeah.
And I think it made a big impact on me, because I got into education when I was at 40. I was still looking at it from the lens of myself as a student, which was 25, 30 years ago. It was that learning curve was very steep. But like I said, I'm not proud of that event, but I am proud of the fact that I think I managed to become a much better person and a much better educator because of it.
Yeah, I think even when we were growing up, it was quite normal for teachers to raise their hands on kids back in the day,
Correct.
which of course now the culture has entirely changed, where
Yeah.
even parents are not allowed to
Yeah.
anymore. Obviously you just celebrated 150 years of Mayo,
Yeah.
and you've taken over this, world-renowned school as a principal, which is 150 years old. What was your biggest shock on day one as the principal of Mayo College?
What was my biggest shock? I think, on the first day, I think I would say, let's just say first month, because,
Yeah.
or the first couple of weeks, is that you realize what a huge institution this is, in terms of course, the physical size, but the reputation. And what the reputation is built on. The reputation is built on 1,000 stories, which are all true. It's built on this network of thousands of alumni, and you just start figuring out, this guy went to Mayo, this guy went to Mayo. There's so many all around the world, and not a shock, but it is a huge. I think the in the right way, it was a lot of pressure. I mean, you realize, oh my God, this is not just another headship. Heading
Yeah.
Mayo is not heading a school. Not to disrespect any other school, but I'm just saying that there's so much more than a.
Yeah.
It's so much
It's a
more
legacy,
than a school. It
almost.
means so much more than a school to so many people in the world that you have to treat it with a lot of respect. I think a lot of people turn around and say, "Oh, Mayo College is just buildings," including some people I know. I think that's extremely disingenuous, and if I may say, very ungenerous as well. The buildings are though they are very impressive, once you take the effort of actually finding out what the soul of Mayo College is, they are the least impressive thing about Mayo College.
So what is the soul of Mayo College?
The soul of Mayo College is that anybody who spends time at Mayo, that becomes the most, important part of him for the rest of his life. Whether
very
he's in
nicely said.
Chicago, whether he's in Singapore, whether he's in LA, whether he's in Cape Town, wherever they may be. We had, in a 150th celebration last year, we had a person from the batch of 58 or 57, and we had a person from the batch of 2025. That was the range of alumni across the 7,000 people who came.
Wow.
And each of them felt as passionate. It was not as if, and I haven't seen that anywhere else. And I use this word very, very sparingly, this word humble, because everybody on LinkedIn is humbled
With anything they've done.
with awards that they are paid for on stage. But no, this was truly, it was just greatness. They're really, and when they come to school, it is so touching that these people who have achieved so much in life will come and they will call me sir. And I'm like, please don't call me sir. No, you're the principal of our school. We must
Yeah.
call you. And that is what is special. That for them, however big they may have become,
Yeah.
for school, it's
still-
really, it's
that
an honor.
inner child is-
It's a real honor for me. I know I'm getting a little this thing, but I get emotional about it. I think it's a huge privilege, and I'm grateful for it every day.
Coming to the Indian education system, how would you describe the Indian education system in one word?
Chaotic.
Do you think the education system that is there, it really talks about learning so many things, but it's also quietly killing curiosity of young learners?
I just, in fact, wrote about this a couple of days ago, and yes, it is. But we are not unique in that. And in defense of our education system, I will say that there are so many different groups and different demographics in our country, and plus each demographic is an education
In itself.
is an education group in another country, right? So it's not easy. It's very easy to criticize. It's not easy. I think if I had to say one thing, I would say the government should perhaps start trusting and partnering with private schools rather than, there seems to be a very suspicious or not a very cooperative relationship. It's almost like, what are you guys doing? You better do this, you better do this. I mean, if you start trusting institutes, especially people, who've been doing it right for 150 years or many others, there are many other schools like us, and trusting us, making us part of the conversation, actually to listen, not just, so I think we're missing a trick there because I can empathize with the education department for the range it has, but they do themselves no favors by trying to control private schools when you haven't even got your government schools
In order. Yeah.
You may as well allow us to help you. I mean, I'd very happily be part of something which could serve the interests of the nation in that.
I think that's getting worse now with the current policies that are coming out. There's less and less autonomy that the private sector has.
Well, I try to refrain from commenting on political situations because they're cyclical in any case. It's not that one government does it, the other government. It's all there is politics. I don't know much about politics, and I don't want to comment on it. But I think whichever stage we're in, we can always do with a little bit more of a cooperative stance. And I'm quite happy with it. Should be a stance where we are giving towards the government, but at least having an input in it. I think the entire education system would be better for it. Is my opinion.
Do you also think the education system is very, very exam and number driven in the sense that you're just categorized on the basis of 95%, 90%, and it's all about that?
Yeah, Devki, but you see, again, who's responsible for that? It's not the government. It's the parents.
Yeah.
It's society, right? I mean, it's the same thing with wealth. You have 500 crores, but you want 1,000 crores, and you can justify your greed by saying whatever you want. Now, if you have a son who's 90%, but you're not happy because Mr. Sharma's son went to IIT and your son better buck up, and therefore you pressurize him, that's on you. Yes, what the government needs to do, what the country needs to do, is to reduce the gap between supply and demand, right? And also think of alternative systems. But the point is, even if I can tell you, if the government was to come up with a lovely internship scheme where you don't have to go to college, how many people do you know will take it? They still want. So whether if it's India, then it's IIT, this. Otherwise, in the ballrooms of or the cocktail parties of Delhi, Bombay, it's about, oh, your son went to Tufts. Didn't get in. Oh, he just went to Harvard. I mean, it's become
it's very competitive.
So, and it's got nothing to do with even the child's happiness quite often. I'm telling I mean, I'll say it out, we need to start thinking about what is best for our child and not best for our social resume,
Do you think a child who goes to a boarding school has a better advantage than a child who's a day boarder?
In what?
In life, like what do you think boarding school teaches a
See,
child?
I'll say this very categorically because it is a question I get asked all the time. That firstly, I believe that boarding school is not for everyone. They've always been a very small minority of the larger system, and correctly so. I feel that in today's day and age, while some people think that boarding schools are becoming irrelevant, I think they're more relevant now because what's happened is that earlier, like they say it takes a village, right, to raise a child. So your village was sometimes literally a village, or the street you grew up in, or it was your extended family, or it became your grandparents and you. Then it became a nuclear family. And now within that nuclear family, you have two working parents. So who is taking? And I'm not talking about the learning subjects part. I'm talking about the growth. So I feel that under any circumstances, if a child can stay at home, get the attention and get the guidance that he's required, there's nothing better than staying at home. I'll say that out. But at the same time, I think the boarding school gives you certain or many, there are many dimensions in which a boarding school gives you an edge, which day schools can't. And I can tell you again, they sound cliched, and resilience, Just being able to handle life. You see, when we talk about resilience, everyone thinks about these huge things, but that's not how resilience is taught.
Yeah.
I've given this example many times and I'll give it to you again. That imagine an 11-year-old boy, right, who has fought with his 4 best friends. And the other 3 or the other 2 are taking the third guy's side. Now, next morning he gets up, he has to go and sit at that dining table with those 4 people because
Life.
that's his life. How does he negotiate it?
Yeah.
You know, there's no mummy saying, forget it, beta, we make new friends and going there, 3 hours in school, 4 hours in school, come back and then. So those are life. That's how resilience and character is built.
Yeah.
It's not this huge, big thing. On a daily basis, in every interaction, you are taught how to negotiate. You are taught where to compromise, where to stand up for yourself, how to be self-starting, how to be disciplined. I will use my example, nobody else's. That in spite of all this, I was a highly indisciplined person, but those grains, those seeds were there in me, right? So eventually, some get it later, some get it immediately, but those seeds have been planted, and then it's really up to you and your destiny and how your mind works, and but definitely that is an advantage.
Yeah. How should schools prepare students for jobs that don't even exist as of
Yeah,
now?
very good question. And as soon as you know the answer, please let me know. I will patent it and earn $1 billion. But broadly, what I will say is that in this uncertainty, there is one certainty. And I think that's what I'm telling all my students and my teachers, that for sure there will be a lot more change. Right? And that change is going to probably, as far as I can say, the only kind of certainty you can say is that there'll be a lot of change and you'll have to keep learning and relearning. Now, those who have the inquisitiveness, to learn will always have an edge. And that is my key, especially for the younger years. I'm very focused on grades 4 to 7 at least, where more than the curriculum transaction, I want exposure for them. For example, you take a kid to a planetarium. We have an observatory, show them stars, show them movies about us, that may bring them into physics.
Yeah.
Or they will want to know physics. Take a kid to art museum, recitals. Now, a lot of them will find it boring, but there will be people who will be drawn.
Absolutely.
And once you start wanting to know, once you're interested, then you will be ready to put in the hours later. Or it'll be easier for you to put in the hours later. Right? The problem is that you're not interested. We have disassociated any element of fun, and fun is a strong word, or interest and academics. Right? We grew up with this thing that fine, fun and all is fine, first you do your studies.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's sustainable for today's generation, because unfortunately for them, the distractions easily available to them are 1 million more than they were for us. So we have to get them interested in doing what they're supposed to be doing, rather than commenting on their willpower or their. I mean, I see these videos that this is the first generation. Whose fault is that? They weren't born with the iPad in their hand.
Yeah.
We're the generation who gave him the iPad.
Absolutely.
So we're the dumbest generation, not them. I mean, I take strong objection to this castigating this next generation for becoming who they are because of the things we have done. We have given up our responsibilities as adults, right?
Yeah.
The moment a kid starts, like, just give him the iPad. I used to, I remember in about 2011-12 when the iPad had just come out, at the airport, there was a 2-year-old kid who was crying, and then they give him, and I was standing there, and I remember thinking very clearly, this is not going to end well. Lo and behold, 14 years later, now suddenly there's this crisis happening.
Yeah. You said grade 4 to 7, whereas in India, everyone just suddenly gets serious in grade 9 because they have board examinations in 10.
Yeah.
Why did you say 4 to 7?
Well, I meant 4 to 6 actually, because that's how our junior school is structured.
Okay.
But 7 also because it's still a formative thing. And I think 8 is, I think grade 8 is a very important year, because that's when you're prepped for getting into 9th and 10th. See, what happens is we are always trying to fix the symptom and never the underlying problem.
Yeah.
Right? If we can get kids to start getting them introduced to work ethic and self-responsibility, in grade 7 and 8, that will see them through at 9th and 10th. If we don't do it by 9th and 10th, it's usually too late.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly not too late, but certainly more difficult.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
No, I mean, even when I started in Strucco, my focus was from the 3 to 15 or 14 age
Correct.
group,
Yeah.
which is when everyone started questioning me and saying, but this is not where you really get students. You get students when it's your coaching centers or, you're getting serious with board examinations. And I was like, but actually, that's when all the learning, the foundation has to be built
Yeah,
then.
absolutely.
So if they can communicate well, be good at basics of financial literacy, public speaking, focus on independent learning, then you've already set a foundation that will take them, across the.
You see, unfortunately, perhaps because of the nature of the competition in our country or just the sheer demographics and stuff, we have a very transactional approach towards education.
Yes.
Right? So if you have to crack an exam at the end of 12th, then you start focusing in 12th or 11th. Nobody's thought through the process and said, 11th and 12th, you're semi-adults, by that, and my role as a head of school for 11th and 12th is to just stop them from harming their own careers because of the distractions again.
Yeah.
And because, biologically, that's why girls do better, because biologically at that age, they are much more mature than boys are, for example, right? So that's physiology, right? And there's no point challenging physiology. You just got to accept it and try and find out what we can do to help them. But again, if that discipline has happened, and I see it all the time, why is it that it'll be divided into, there are some guys who are complete self-starters, and then there's some guys who are complete slackers. Of course, there's a bit of a personality issue also, but it's also because there is distraction. Some of them have just been, perhaps they, at their homes, there's been a bit more discipline, or I don't know what the magic sauce for it is, but perhaps they've just, they're just been prepared for these things a bit better at an earlier stage. I don't know what the formula is, but I know what we need to do. Yeah.
And which skills do you think will matter more than just academic scores in the next decade?
Without, again, there's no crystal ball in my hand, but I think, logically, communication. And, again, communication, people think communication skills is about being glib. It's not. Communication skills is about when you're sitting with somebody, they can feel that you are all there.
Yeah.
Because your glib answers can be doubly sophisticated in AI. There are kids now, I believe, who have AI as their best friend and are chatting with them about their problems and all. So, but there is something to be said about someone's physical presence, right? And we all saw it in COVID, didn't we? Because if physical presence didn't matter, then why are we still dealing with the repercussions of a phenomena which happened 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that communication and compassion again, say these words and people go, oh my, that touchy-feely kind of thing. It's not that. That is what humanity is.
Yeah, empathy. Just having empathy.
I think, you see, our whole system has been geared towards training kids for a certain skill set, which AI has made completely or will make completely irrelevant and redundant, because no matter how smart you are, you cannot beat a computer. At computing.
Absolutely.
Right? So things which which we used to refer to as soft skills in an extremely sort of condescending manner.
Yeah.
Right. So, I wrote this somewhere and it stayed with me that in an era where machines can outdo human beings in every cognitive function, those skills which are uniquely belong to humanity are the premium, right? So, humanity has become the new premium. We haven't realized it yet, but it is people whose humanity quotient, if I may just, be poetic and call it that. You need to be a good human being, and it is going to be, again, this is like one of those things, like those epiphanies that I had when I saw that iPad. It's going to prove itself eventually, right? I'll tell you my own experience. There's a lot of work I do on AI now, right? And I use AI as it's the privilege of having an assistant who's more intelligent than you.
Absolutely.
But it is still my assistant. I know exactly what I want, but then It saves me, for example, when I'm making a presentation, it'll give me variations, it'll do the alignment, that thing of 2 hours, and it'll do exactly what I want, right? If I write something, it'll proofread it for me. If I say I'm over by 300 words, it'll give me 2 versions of what to edit. So on Excel, on financial calculations and stuff, I'm able to now do much more than I did earlier because it would have taken too much time and I didn't know how to explain it to someone else. But so that's how you use it, right? But I would hope that, that I add value to people's lives beyond just that the Excel sheets that I produce, and that's the value of humanity, I think.
How do you define leadership?
I would define it. I'll tell you what I think is essential for leadership. The most important thing about leadership is courage. I was meeting. I had a lovely chat with Mr. Manish Sabharwal, who's a ex-Mayoite and involved with various aspects. Apart from being an educator, he has his own school and runs a huge company and everything. Very well-read man, and I was having a long chat with him, and he quoted someone. I always forget the name, though I remember the quote, so that's at least good. So he said that the only emotion that cannot be faked, or the only quality, that cannot be faked is bravery. You can fake compassion, you can fake caring, you can fake kindness, sadness, everything. You can't fake bravery. You're either brave or you're not. And that shows.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to have the courage to take tough decisions, to risk falling for the right reasons. Right? Of course, for that you need support and all that stuff, that notwithstanding. But for the quality I look at, and I think most people look at it as leader, is that yes, because literally what does leading mean? Being the first person to walk down a path, because everybody else is a follower.
Yeah.
So a leader is someone who is taking you to somewhere where you couldn't go without him.
Absolutely.
I don't need a leader to walk from here to there because I've done that journey 100 times. I need a leader when I've never been there, but he's going, if he's going, it might be worth going.
Follow.
So, but that requires courage. So I think that is, if I have to, there are a million books out there with a million views, but I think for me that one thing is very important.
That's actually very impactful, and you're so right. I mean, you can see when a person is courageous because that it shows like it's an action that speaks louder than words.
Whereas, and there's so many facets to it, right? Are you willing to stick to your principles when it's inconvenient?
Yeah.
When it makes you unpopular with your team or with the other stakeholders.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I'm not talking about being inconsiderate or stubborn, but when it's a core value thing. Right? You've got to take unpopular decisions also sometimes.
Absolutely.
So that requires courage as well.
What was one unpopular decision you took?
Too many.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, too many.
Do you think schools do enough to teach values and character, or most? I'm talking about the majority, right? I'm not talking about a certain handful.
Well, I think it's not about schools. It's about society on the whole. And values and character can't be taught. They can be mirrored. And by that standard, we have done the most pathetic job in the history of humanity. When a kid grows up seeing his parents throw litter on the ground from his 1 crore car, right? Or spitting on the road, anything you say beyond that is not going to make any difference to them. Right? We need to role model.
Yeah.
And we've done a terrible, terrible job. I think the only way to teach that is, the good thing is, I think we're all realizing. But then again, it's so much easier to try and teach it to the next generation, right? So, in fact, today I just written a post on my LinkedIn, which is exactly about how I have uninstalled Instagram 2 months. And how,
you mentioned.
because I've done that, because, we're so busy thinking about the ill effects of these social media on kids that we very conveniently given ourselves a pass.
Right? We can doom scroll, but you can't.
Yeah. So this is a small example of the same thing. You've got to model the values you're trying. That's the only way you can teach it. Otherwise, you won't. Kids will see through you, and they won't listen you or respect you. That's my belief, at least.
There's always been a big bullying culture, and especially when you talk about boarding schools, I think it comes out a lot more.
Correct.
How does Mayo College address it? And do you think it's very rampant even now, overall, across schools?
Well, I don't, I would say, though I can't speak for all the other schools, but certain other schools, I won't name them, but certain other schools of our ilk, I think all of them have taken this very seriously and have come down quite heavily on it. Now, how much they've succeeded in that you'll have to ask them, but I know that it is something everyone's looking at. But for Mayo College, I can, I've said this in front of over 6,000 audience in November, that we are a bullying-free school now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was because of the support I've had from my committee and the board, whose mandate was very clear that we have to get rid of it. So we did I don't want to get into the details. We did whatever was required. It's a cultural thing. It's changing. Of course, there are incidents, but you see, this is what I tell parents. If you have 3 boys in a house, there'll be power dynamics and bullying happening there.
Yeah.
Here we have 850 boys. It's bound to happen to some. There's a difference between a stray incident of bullying and institutionalized bullying. Right? So I can say that institutionalized bullying is pretty much out of a lot of the top boarding schools, or at least minimized. Stray incident happens, and you deal with it like a parent deals with their kid. Right? So,
And that's...
yeah.
Obviously, the new education policy came out in 2020,
Yeah.
and how well do you think it's been implemented? Or how aware are the educators of the policy?
See, I think if you were to read the NEP in isolation, it is an extremely forward-thinking and visionary document.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about
Yeah.
that. Right? The problem is really, again, like I was saying earlier, is between the ground reality in our country and its aspirations. And how do you create that equitable system? Rightly or wrongly, boards like the CBSE often cater to the lowest common denominator. Now, they need to do that. I appreciate that as well, because if you let's say if you are making rules by the standards of people who can afford a huge fee, then you're being unfair to those people, right? To the people who can't afford it.
Yeah.
But then the infrastructure or lack of it being what it is means any lofty ideal in the NEP, once it comes to the ground,
It's...
is non-existent.
Yeah.
So that gap,
Completely
I don't,
disintegrated.
so
Yeah.
I don't have an answer of how to, but I think the NEP as a guideline, like let's say in the Constitution we have a directive principle, I think it's good. What we need to create and figure out is how do we implement it. And that's where I was saying that, hybrid systems, I think private investment and private this thing should be encouraged. I don't know why we look at private education as a criminal. Those who are using it as a complete money making should be looked at. But,
Yes.
I mean, I don't think to look at everyone, like for example, and I will say the name of the institution because it's a compliment I'm paying. I worked with Pathways for 4 years, and it's a privately run institution, but I have seen very few people genuinely committed to education as that family is, and it was a pleasure to work for them for 4 years. Their innovation, there's no harm to be in the education and end up being profitable as well, as long as you're not driven by driving revenues and profit. My point is that if you run a school well, actually run it well, and invest in it, eventually people want a good thing, and you'll make some money as well by it. You don't do it in a way which is, you don't deal with a school the way you deal with a cement factory and look at your quarter figures and so I think that's why I think those kind of schools which have been pioneers are always run in a particular way with a particular ethos, and so I think those kind of people should be so I mean if you have created these institutions when it was not your primary business, but then got into it, you spent time, then the government can also there's so much you can help with the government. So I think these kind of partnerships is really the way forward, because how will a few people in a department handle such a thing? It's for them also, it's humanly impossible, right?
Absolutely. And I think it when as a principal you're running a school, you're on the ground seeing what parents want, what students want, whereas a lot of policymakers are sitting in an office and making policies based on just data they're seeing, not really conversations they're having. So
that's the thing, and there is so much there's such a lack of actual ground information, because the layers and layers of bureaucrats who probably have never stepped into a school, and even the efficient ones. are getting inputs from people with agendas, right? So I mean, it's a complicated thing. I mean, again, like I said, I'm not an expert in that, but I certainly think a little bit more genuine respect for those who are running private schools well, instead of suspicion, would
Go a
benefit
long
everyone.
way.
Yeah, would go a long way. Yeah.
CBSE came out with this 3 language formula where now you have to learn a regional language, you have to learn a national, like Hindi, and then English has now become a foreign language. Uh, what is your view on
Well, look,
this?
again, now I don't know what the thought behind it initially was. Maybe political, probably is. But in any case, I am not against the 3 language policy per se, right? I mean, I think to impose that it must, why, I mean, I think let's create an economy where the child wants to learn, a person in South India wants to learn Hindi, and a person in North India wants to learn Tamil or this thing, because it will help them in their job prospects. To impose it just on a political this thing is, I feel, unfair. Still, for the sake of, if those who are wiser than me in these things feel that it will help in national integration, fair enough. The, what I really oppose is this reverse that they've done, where earlier they'd given people time. I don't know what political compulsion you had, but to turn around, when the session has started,
In the middle of the session.
and then to turn around and say switch it now, I think it is callous.
Yeah.
There's no other word for it. It is completely inconsiderate for the students. And I thought education was about students the last I heard, And that's all I'm going to say about it, because I don't want to get myself into trouble. But I think nobody can justify changing the rules. So we have children who've been studying French for 4 years, 5 years.
And now suddenly
you wanted them to change something and do something else. And then they're saying that no, you can do another sub. So they learn 4 languages.
Yeah.
So when will they do physics, maths, English, all the social studies?
Yeah.
When? I mean, so I think, well, it is in court, so it's sub judice. Let's see. But I hope that if nothing else, just let's not be unfair to the child. Give it a year or so at least. Let people make it clear that, okay, so if you're in grade 7, grade 8, 2 years from now, you'll have a. That I can disagree with or agree with. That's my opinion. But the government has a right to do that. I think what they're doing now is just sheer callous. I mean, it's unfair on the children, and I have no qualms in saying that.
is there, obviously recently in the news, we've seen the whole coaching culture, so many suicides of students. How can we change this culture?
Well, I mean, and this, it's not easy because the government is trying its best to create more institutions, but the population being what it is, the gap between the supply and the demand is always there. And it's because of that the competition is what it is. But I also feel that now in today's day and age, and I'm not talking about those in that lower middle class where these institutes are really an opportunity for not only the child but the entire family to break free of a certain
Financial
thing, and I appreciate that. So I'm not talking about them, and I'm not sort of sitting down and passing judgment on them. I'm talking about people who can do something else also. Excuse me. There are so many more careers there. There are so many things which you can do. Why are we putting so much pressure on our own children that often they don't even know what they want to do themselves? If we celebrate a culture where 1 out of the 10,000 person who gets through in an exam, we hail him as the biggest winner, the implicit message we are giving everyone else, 9,999 kids, is that they're losers. So we have raised a generation of people with an inferiority complex, and they manifest that angst in various ways in their personal life, in their civic life, in their public life, in their morality, values, everything. So I think while it is important to celebrate those who win, and I'm not for all those giving everyone a medal, at the end of the day, I'm just saying we should stop that. If you have given your best and you don't win, that's good enough. You will find something else that you'll win at. So it's not about let's not celebrate him or her. In most cases, her these days. Celebrate her for topping,
Yeah.
but don't make him or her ashamed for being second or third or 20th. I think what I always tell her, this teacher, I tell our kids, I'm watching I want the process, not the results. I want to see if you're working hard or not, because
Yeah.
that is what will get you through. You'll find your place in life. But it's. I feel sorry for the kids, especially for those from a very from a
Difficult
less
backgrounds.
from a less financially stable background, because the parents obviously are trying to then I'm not counting them in that earlier discussion. For them, this is a way out for the child, and
Yeah.
I don't think many of them are not selfish enough to think that I'll do well. It's for the child, but for the child, it's a huge thing, because he knows or she knows that they can actually get their whole family's lifestyle changed, and I think that's really, it's tragic. It's I wish
It's a lot of pressure.
it is too much pressure. It's
Yeah.
not fair on any adult, and on children, of course, it's not. But what do we do?
Yeah.
It's just the reality of the country that the society that we live in, and the demographics of the population that we have. And there's not much more the government. I know it's very fashionable to blame the government for everything, but it is what it is. Now,
Yeah.
creating medical institutions is not easy. The number of engineering colleges has gone up hugely. But the problem again is that there are some which are very good, and then the quality
Yeah.
dip is huge. So, but then they're in 70%. Did you know? I'm not sure about the exact number, but someone told me 90 or 93% of the IS officers this year are IT students
No way. I
of
don't.
of the batch of 2026.
That's just.
Right? The rest of them, 60, 70, I don't know what the statistics are, but every second guy I know is becoming an investment banker. Then you're asking us, why are we not creating why are people not creating things? Because our best engineering institutions are basically cradles to create bureaucrats and investment bankers. So who's going to create? Engineers are the ones who create. But our engineers are selling themselves off for investment banking, and that's become a route. You see?
And I think, this is actually something that is so close to my heart, because when I started in Strucco, and as now it's been 5 years, the initial few years, my biggest fear was failure. Because we are never taught to fail.
Yeah.
We are always taught to be on top. And if you don't do well in something, it's like you failed in something.
Yeah.
And this whole Viksit Bharat and entrepreneurial culture that we're trying to build can only come if we are okay with failure. And that's why in the United States of America, failure is not a problem. That's why there's all the entrepreneurs and all the innovations, everything comes out of that country, because it's okay.
So I think, without sounding naive, I think that we are making improvements.
Yes.
As a society also, these changes don't happen overnight. But I think, people are more accepting. Obviously, it's very easy for people to say, but as a parent, you are afraid for your child. Right?
Yes, I agree.
It is
Of
your
course.
natural instinct.
Yeah.
But I think it is becoming a little less now. I think it's becoming a bit more realistic, and the risk appetite is becoming a little more, I think, and that's good. As long as we're headed in the right direction. You're completely right. I have failed several times in many things in my life, and I think that is what has made me a good leader eventually. Ironically, and there's no. If you can fail at something, look at it and then kind of not repeat those mistakes. Make the next set of mistakes if you have to. There's no harm in that, and I think it takes
Courage.
It takes courage. Again,
Yeah.
here we come back to courage. And I think this coming generation is a lot more courageous than we are that way.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big fan of this generation, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. I think they get too much bad press, And they get bad press for reasons which are beyond their control. Like I said, if I had access to a mobile phone when I was 11 or 12 years
Yeah.
old, or even 8 years or whatever, I'd be doing exactly what they're doing, And again, look at, when you go to a restaurant, you'll see the 18-year-old on a phone. What are the parents doing across
Also
the table?
on the phone?
They'll just
Selfies,
they'll put
food photos.
They will put it down 2 seconds before and then say,
Yeah.
"You guys are always on your phone."
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot these guys are dealing. See, because the flip side of that, what we don't think of, is they're living in a fishbowl, right? Every aid is isolation, right? And of an isolation of a kind which we didn't know. Our bonds were much stronger. Second, everything they do is exposed sometimes, because teenagers we've all been there. And not the most, teenagers aren't known for their sensitivity, right? So every small thing you do wrong gets publicized, there's a lot of pressure there. So I think let's stop judging them and try and see again, what is it that, what can we change in the raising the next generation, firstly? And how can we, help them out? So that conversation is important, not judgment, that conversation. And then, of course, I'm sure there are things we can tell them that will help them, because hindsight is a lovely thing which we have now. But you can't,
You obviously meet hundreds of parents every year. What is the single most common concern they have?
I think, at the bottom of it, beyond all the noise and the posturing and this, most parents just want their children to be happy. They do. I think that way the parent is the most beautiful. The parenting is a beautiful thing that way, right? The rest is, I think, like children, we also judge parents, right? We become so judgmental. And parents are afraid. It's not of being judged, but just of, are we doing the best for our child? Right?
Even parenting has a lot of pressure now.
And exactly. And I think, there's no manual to it. So a lot of the things that, I talk about, I do understand that everybody's trying their best. And 99 out of 100 parents, I would say, really just want the best for their children and want them to be happy. And that's what, once you strip down how many marks is he getting, how much this is he getting, then once they start, you realize that, that's the way they define happiness, or they define success or safety or whatever. But yes, I think that's really the one thing I hear. If you start listening to the message behind the voice, it's a very beautiful one. It's one of deep concern and love. Yeah.
So when they come and talk to you about the concerns they have, what advice do you give them?
I'm very candid, and I think maybe I just come across in a way that they trust me, so I don't say it in an offensive or a judgmental way, because I don't mean it that way. But I'm very frank with them. I sometimes just tell them, just pack it in, just
Relax.
chill. Yeah, relax.
Yeah.
It's the best thing you can do. So even if they don't listen, but they don't get offended, and that's they know that I think to be fair, without I do care about the kids under my charge tremendously. I don't have any children of my own, so I think of each of them as my own child. That sounds sentimental, but it's true, and it is the biggest source of joy in my life. So while I also flounder and make mistakes, but there is never anything but love and care for the kids under my jurisdiction, so to speak. Yeah.
I remember you'd written a post about how a parent came and asked you that, you have such a big fee at Mayo. Why should we be paying this fee? What was your answer to that?
Well, that question is a very easy one for me to answer, because if you look at the fee per unit square foot, forget everything else, just the square foot area, we are one of the cheapest institutions in the school. So whatever we're at, there are day schools in Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, Chennai, Mumbai, everywhere. They're charging, so we are a close to 190-acre school. Our kids stay there 24/7 for 8 months of the year. And including everything, our fee is about 11 lakhs, right? You know very well that there are 4-acre schools where the child comes in at 8:30 and leaves by 2:33. And for the honor of doing that, is paying the fee of 26, 27 lakhs.
Yeah.
That's more than 2.5 times our fee. So how are we an expensive school? Every facility, we have 24 different sports, 4 different languages, 110 teachers for 850 students, 2 swimming pools, polo. So that,
Is not.
It's a symptom of ignorance, not of fact. It takes certain amount of money to run an institution like that. But, and frankly, and I must, hats off to my board, because any proposal that comes to increase the fee beyond a certain point, they reject it immediately. Because, see, economically, we could easily raise our fee 50%, and we'd still have, because we have enough applications, but we, as much as we can, without losing, without being in a loss, because that's not sustainable.
Of course.
We want to be accessible to as many people as possible. And we're working very hard for getting more and more bursaries, scholarships. There's a lot of efforts we're making towards that. Of course, see, listen, I'm not going to be insensitive, and for thousands and millions of people there, they must be looking at it and saying what an elite institution and inaccessible, and I appreciate that. But I don't think we are not a money-making institution in any case, and in the larger context, we're not an expensive school for what we offer at all. I think we're very cheap for it.
Yeah. How would you compare, a supportive parent versus a helicopter parent? And do you have helicopter parents at Mayo?
Well, I live in this world, so yes, I do. We're not in Mars, we're on Earth in 2026. So, I think, without getting into it too much, I think the basic difference is that both will try and control the process. Helicopter parents try to control the outcome as well. Right? So when it comes to academics, I think every parent, any caring parent, must sit with the child or make time.
Yes.
And attention to see, because the child's instinct is always going to be to do something else in most cases, right? There are a certain percentage of self-starters at that age, most of them, which I was a part of the second part. You need someone to sit down and study.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's and then you thank them for it 15 years later, not at that time, but you do it, right? So that is parenting. Helicopter parenting is about, okay, now you'll do this, then you'll do physics after this, and then now this. Okay, why aren't you going for this class? Do that, and I want you to study that subject. Oh, why has he got... Sometimes the teacher will say, look, he's doing all right, just let it be. Okay, fine, I trust you. No, he's got 3 marks less than he should have in his target. So, but I think the outcomes, don't be so focused on the outcome. Any concerned parent must be part of the process. But don't try and second guess what the outcome should be at all times. It puts undue pressure on the child more than anything else.
Yeah.
I think,
What are the 3 biggest mistakes you see parents making?
It's a good question. It's difficult to immediately think of the most prominent one, but I'll tell you one, and then I'll try and think of the other. One is definitely, and this is not a mistake, I think it's a crime, borderline crime, is to determine the future of their children on the trends in their social circle. Including schooling, where they'll go to school, where they'll go to college, what career they should be following. That's one. That's, I think, is the most rampant one. Second, of course, it's a very obvious one, which is trying to live their life through their children. It's never going to happen. If you are unhappy with the life you've led and you're trying to live another life, then it's very clear. It should be so clear that if you're making your child live a life separate from what he wants to live, he's going to be as unhappy as you. So, right? So that's that. And the third is just, for all the support and everything, I think most parents, us as a generation, not parents, just us, we're very judgmental of this. And too often we are looking at the behavior and what we don't like about it. We're not appreciating how much of a part we have played in the causes for this behavior. So, these 3.
I think that's because also the definition of success has become so narrow that parents feel like the only way to be successful is to have that stature in society or build a certain amount of wealth. Is that what you think as well? That how do you define success?
Well, I define success as being gainfully employed, and employed I don't mean for money. Busy, let's say, having something that you can wake up in the morning and want to do is the first and most important thing. If you can make a lot of money out of it
Then
and
great.
money turns you on, great. As long as it gets you the lifestyle you're ready to lead, that's fine. Now, the biggest problem is that everyone defines themselves not by how they feel, but
Yeah,
how others
others
feel
may.
about themselves. That was a huge thing I had to personally get over when I switched from the corporate world to teaching. Because I joined as a teacher, and that too as a fresher, let's say. So I mean, it's one month I particularly I remember where they had cut out taxes for the 4-5 months together. I don't know this is about it. And what I was getting was about just a 5,000 rupees more than what I used to pay my driver
No way.
in Mumbai. And I remember thinking, oh my God. And then I went and met my principal, Mrs. Bindra, who has been a mentor to me. And she was chuckling and she said, look, just relax, things will get better. And they have, But because I stuck to, I saw that this is something I really enjoy. For me personally, it was the right thing to. I enjoyed sitting in it, and I think if you really enjoy it, then you do better. So I think success, how much money you want, and I have this conversation. I sometimes take economics classes with 9 and 10, and I tell them the same when we talk doing this chapter wants and needs. And I said, what is a want and a need? What is a need? What is a want? And what do you really want? Do you even know what you want?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're really passionate about cars, go buy a great, make enough money to buy the car that you want. But if you're buying it so that because the neighbor's got and you want to, and that effect, you have basically squandered 3 or 4 years doing something you don't want just for that 30 seconds of impressing someone who you don't even care for. I mean, and these are such basic things, I mean, I think like everything else in life, the answer to all our problems is very simple. I say simple, not easy.
Yeah.
Right? The distinction is there, right? And anything which is simple is taken as, this is not complicated enough. Unless you could write it in words which are 4 syllables in it, it's not worth listening to. But actually, the simplest things are the most true. It's just very difficult to do, right?
You keep talking about how big a fan you are of this current generation. Do you also think that this new generation is dealing with a lot more anxiety than the previous ones?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know whether they're dealing with more anxiety than the previous ones, but they are dealing with anxiety. There are certain aspects and certain areas which didn't exist in our childhood. So obviously, those are some new anxieties, but we had our own anxiety. I think what has also happened is that we didn't know what anxiety meant.
That's true.
And I say this tongue in cheek, but it is partially true that every time we took ourselves too seriously, a slap on the cheek from someone usually just was better than
just do your
any
job.
Anti-depression medicine that you could be given.
That's
true. And while I don't endorse that, of course, I mean, we've evolved and good for us that we have. Good for us that we have. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is that things have become a little overcomplicated as well. And if you've been told this, it's like this. Are you anxious? What's anxious? Anxious means this. No, I'm not. Okay, fine. Are you anxious? Are you anxious? Are you anxious? Yeah, actually, I was a little anxious. I'm always anxious. I'm getting a problem. This is what has happened to this. So while there's some real cases, I also think there's a bit. Everything has got a name on it, right? Oh, I'm depressed. I'm having one thing which really gets my goat. Sir, I'm suffering from performance anxiety before my exam. I said, no, you're not. You're paying the price for being a lazy git the whole year. If you had studied all year, you wouldn't have been this nervous just now.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Put my arms around you and say, don't worry, my son, you're going to do brilliantly? No, you're not. You should have listened to me when I told you, look, this is a fact of life. Right? And someone has to say that to kids also. There's no such thing as performance anxiety. I think I'll black out. You may as well black out because you've got nothing to write in any case. You don't know the answers. Have a nap, So, I mean...
Yeah.
I say that in a, lighter
No,
way.
of
But
course,
it's a bit of both, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit of both. So, yeah.
Coming to AI and technology and social media, which
Yes.
is something that everyone's talking about.
Yep.
What does healthy technology use look like in 2026?
I don't know. I mean, I'm no expert. I can only tell you my opinion on it. I think, see, for adults it's different, right? Because I would hope, apart from the addiction, which is the same, which is the common thing which I mentioned, but I hope that we can discern between rubbish and fact to a great extent. So, for example, if you were to ever see when I was on Instagram constantly, if you saw my feed, you'd really wonder what this guy is the principal, because
Yeah.
it's just rubbish, right? Because I just like to watch real, it's like a de-stressor.
Yeah.
You watch these memes, you laugh at them, you keep liking them, there's really ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pure entertainment. The danger is when you start using social media for your primary research, right? And start believing
Yeah.
anything, and it's funny that my parents' generation, for example, for a lot of them, if it's, I saw it there,
Yeah.
I said, this is nonsense. I just saw that post over there. I said, excuse me, anybody can, I hate to break this to you, but anybody can put anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's true. Yeah, you know better. So there's this whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But that is the danger of social media. I think social media is more anti-social media in most cases. In any case,
That's true.
It is
Very well said.
It is bringing about the worst in us. It's perpetuating the worst in us. And I talk about myself as well. I'm not pontificating. And we all know that these algorithms are created in a manner that they will perpetuate anything which you feel, even if it's wrong. And no matter how smart you think you are, there are people who are much, much, much smarter than me and you, who are getting paid millions and millions
Yeah.
to use the science to do that to us.
Absolutely.
So you've got to be aware. AI is a separate thing that we can talk about, but social media, I think, the less you use, the better. Look, I love it because I love it as an entertainment source. But Twitter is just something I've just never got onto.
Same.
Because there is just so much anger there.
X.
Yeah, X, sorry. X bracket, formerly known as Twitter.
Twitter,
Yes. Let's be politically
Yeah.
correct. But there's just so much angst and so much anger and so much disrespect
Yeah.
and
So
much,
many opinions.
Yeah, opinions, of course, but all it's. I just keep myself out of it because why should I get into? I feel why should I get into something which irks me, right? I limit myself to LinkedIn to a great extent because there I can a lot of people post things which are relevant. Opinions on education from educators and
Yeah.
people who are allied, and you can agree and you can disagree, but it's
Civil.
it's much more civil, much more civil and much less random. So
Obviously, you have Chat GPT now that children are using for essays, problem solving. Any answer is on AI. So, in this now world of AI, what skills should children learn?
actually, that's a very difficult one to answer, right? I think we're all finding our areas because see, I try and keep an open mind. My belief, of course, is that your writing and all these things are important and they're skills which will stay. But I have to keep questioning myself also that is this just a legacy of my bringing up, which I haven't found the answer yet. I certainly think in any case, I feel that even if you outsource something, you should be able to do it brilliantly yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Fair. That's true.
When I write something, I always run it by AI. And sometimes I'll say, think of a nice opening for me. Sometimes I edit 300 words from it. But I know I can write it myself.
Yes.
And it's saving me time. That's all it's doing. And it's, making it incrementally better by 10%, which is a huge thing to get that 10% better.
Yeah.
But if I couldn't write, right, and I just said, I want you to, and by the way, even LinkedIn is filled with such writing, and you can see it immediately.
Absolutely.
I'm a big writer, big time writer, as in a very frequent writer at this thing. But I'm quite open about saying that, that I use AI to spruce things up a little bit, give me its opinion on how it reads. But that's because I am a writer. I feel that I have the writing ability, therefore I write. Uh, I will not put up I can't paint to save my life, so it's not like I'll say, generate this painting, put it up and say, my latest piece of work based on the works of Pablo
Yeah.
Picasso. That would be fraud,
Yeah.
So I think, that's the fine line. I think I think it's good to have those skills in any case.
Yeah.
Because even you see, the discernment of what is good and what is bad must be with you. No matter what they write, those three, I can critically analyze and say what is the quality of each. Sorry. How do I? So even in AI, I use Claude Cowork, and I've programmed it in a way that it is very harsh with me. So you can write I say you have to be my worst critic. Because otherwise, it's just like, oh, fantastic.
Yeah, what a good job
Yeah,
you've
sometimes I'm just like, it irritates me also. Now I'm like, no, but you asked me to be your critic. That's it. But that's what you got to do, and I
Yeah.
think that's great. That's so for kids in education, I think AI should be something which can help them in the areas they require help, access to research, genuine research, sources with the right references and credits and everything. And I would resist getting the writing process done by. I think they should submit it to the teacher. The teacher can always take AI's help to correct to a certain extent, to do one draft or whatever. But that's where I think use it as a tool for children to extend their resource base more than anything else.
Yeah.
And maybe the other thing I really and I'm hoping that we get there eventually, differentiated learning, personalized learning. Because see, no matter how dedicated a teacher is, a human being, if you're teaching 4 sections of 20 people each, which is a luxury, by the way, right? Most teachers have many more.
Yeah,
students.
absolutely.
But if you have 80 students every day, how are you ever going to be able to make individual plans? You can't make it. Even with best intentions, best abilities, you can't. But if you have the right intentions, then you can get AI to use those for you. And that is where I think, where AI can really help.
Yeah.
Particularly with those with the special education needs. And that's a huge section. It's not a 1 out of 100, I think, I don't know what the exact statistics are, but it's close to 10, 15 in every 100 children, I believe, or maybe more. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but it's a big number.
Yeah.
Right? So even if it's, let's say, the minimum of this range, 8. So in my school, if I have 800 students, that's 64 students in my school will not be getting any kind of attention that they need. That's not good enough, right? And we must use technology to help those kids.
Yeah, there's a lot of talks about the fact that AI will replace teachers, or they should have AI teachers in the classroom. What are your views on that?
So, like I said earlier, I don't have a crystal ball. And I would like to see the crystal ball of the person who makes these predictions. I think, unfortunately, we are, as a species, becoming more and more victims of extreme views. So either AI is the best thing that has ever happened, and we should use AI in everything right from now, or AI is going to kill us and take over our world. And look, I don't know what's going to happen 100 years from now. Maybe those guys who make these science fiction things are. I think right now, those are not the things we should be worried about. What we should be worried about is that 10, 15 years down the line, will these children be able to contribute substantially to society in a way that is economically beneficial for them? I think let's answer that question. The robots and all are for conversations for people who've had one too many drinks, I think, at night. But when it starts getting into boardrooms, then we need to worry about it.
Yeah.
Right?
What does an ideal school look like in 2035?
Oh, wow. I think, Devvaki, without trying to be trite, I think ideal school in any time looks the same. Which is using the technology, resources and training available at that time to ensure that each child is given the best chance to become the best version of themselves. why I say it in this cliched way is because, again, we don't know what 2035, these are, I can take a punt. I can give you three different versions of that.
Yeah.
But none of them would be with any. What I do know is as long as we are getting anywhere close to that, the rest are all details, right?
So just a quick few questions and one word answers. One book every teenager should read.
The Fountainhead.
Okay. I love that. One habit every student should develop.
Self-honesty.
One thing schools should stop doing.
Pandering to parents.
One thing parents should stop doing.
Harassing schools.
A teacher you'd invite to dinner, living or dead.
Wow. Now, this is like you're trapping me here. Now, so this is...
Okay, anyone. Any one person.
I've always been fascinated by Albert Einstein. And that's because of my relatively poor knowledge of physics. Yeah. But
Please invite me too.
Yeah. I think I've read about him.
Yeah.
And he had such a lovely view on so many things beyond physics as well. I mean, he's the archetypical nerd, so to speak, but he was so much more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy who turns around and is against the, is cursing himself for creating the mathematics that made nuclear this thing possible. I mean, there's obviously so many more layers to that man.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. It was so nice to have you here, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you very much for finally getting me on your roster. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.